Dear viewer, gone is the age of reliance upon external groups for support. I would go so far as to say that this is the age of solitude, the solitary practitioner upon their unique journey. External groups, large groups, egregores, anything that is an external distractor, it is my belief, will take you upon the road of perdition. This is the age of expansion of consciousness, the age of what you are willing to sacrifice. And typically, the idea of sacrifice is usually your ego and the illusions of the ego. Please, you must decide what is most important for you. And that involves seeing through the illusions of the ego, those distractors that rob you of your energy. For me, as an example, what is most important is the expansion of consciousness. And that's not some kind of intellectual thing, but consciousness meaning ultimately consciousness of the heart. How can I better introduce the frequency of love into my field, observational field? How may I better introduce, in my personal lexicon, the will of God, which has nothing to do with my ego? But this path, upon this path, you must realize that there will not be anyone left to blame but ourselves for where we end up in our lives. Now, during the age of Pisces, the Piscean age of dogma, of large-scale social institutions, structures, outer influencers, teachers, bosses, police, politicians, that will continue to evaporate. And instead, the golden age will involve those of us who have realized that we must develop our own inner fortitude to survive and thrive. Small, like-minded groups of people will be the way forward. People in the frequency of love, people of a tribe of a similar frequency. I truly feel sorry for those males who are caught up in a narcissistic ego paradigm. And when I say that, I think about people like, Andrew Tate or any other type of male who feels that they validate themselves through any of those external paths, womanizing, fighting. I used to be like that to a certain extent, not 100%, but it was my imp of the perverse. It was my distractor that I would kind of go back and forth between those habits and that lifestyle. However, when I had my polarization, when the God force was released within me, it burned all falsehood out of me and brought me into alignment. And this was back in 2021. And I've been on a path ever since then to integrate this knowledge, to share it, and to navigate this new energy that I believe, divinely bequeathed with. A divine intervention took place in my life to take me from a path of ruination and put me upon a path of truly what matters. What I began to realize what matters most to me and ultimately to God. And to navigate this new energy that I found myself in possession of with the Kundalini activation, a full-blown reckoning of what's living inside of my subconscious took place. And that involved symbolically meeting with Anubis, having a weighing of my heart which involved the extent of heart-mind coherence, which involved the extent to which I had been living my life according to truth, to subconscious truth, and how I had been actually acting in my life, how I had been a hypocrite to some extent, but how my heart and my truth were at odds end. And so that is one way I explain or understand what took place with the release of the Kundalini God Force. It was a reckoning. And I came face to face with how I had been living my life and how my soul had an idea of how I was supposed to be living my life according to contracts, to pre-incarnation plans of action, things that were meant to be accomplished in this lifetime versus how I had actually been living my life. And there was a reckoning that took place. And I can say without a doubt that my lifestyle completely changed. But part of that reckoning was doing away with that, or at least coming to understand how I was my own worst enemy and this narcissistic personality. Now, this is a path, and this is what's so beautiful about and rewarding and engaging about our lives, is that we can constantly find avenues for perfection, to perfect our personality, to build our soul, so to speak, that when we leave these bodies, when it is our time to die, that what we go forth with has no distractions. It is unified as best as possible to face what takes place in the beyond. Now, nothing real can be threatened. Love is a frequency. And we are entering collectively a period of profound recalibration. And many people are taking the wide path. They're being distracted by what's going on in society, violence, and it's only going to continue to be that way. And so I believe that each person must go through this period of profound recalibration about what truly matters in their life, what they're going to allow to distract them, what they're going to allow to take them out of the frequency of love. Now, this is a choice. Everyone has their own choice about how they're going to live their lives. And there are other frequencies out there. The universe presents both subtle and overt opportunities to reconfigure the current timeline of your life, to dissolve outdated structures and stabilize your consciousness within the vibrational field of the infinite. Direct quantum reconfiguration is the method by which your consciousness intentionally selects new probability vectors to collapse into a higher aligned reality. To not engage, to not be about forcing outcomes through a narcissistic ego, to be more about precisely shifting your internal state, clearing resonance with lower frequencies, and allowing the universe to recollapse around your highest alignment. Nothing real can be threatened. This is my personal anchor, and I'd like to share that with you as well. Perhaps it will be your personal anchor. Love is a frequency. Love is ultimately the only real thing, and nothing real can be threatened. Any fear, doubt, or chaos arises solely from illusions, constructs of your egoic perception, residual timelines that no longer serve your soul. By holding this truth, this maxim, nothing real can be threatened, as a fixed point, your consciousness becomes unperturbed, capable of making decisive, clear, and sovereign choices. Now, I'd like to introduce a term from ancient Sumer, the term is Zu, Z-U, the power of Zu, primordial, intelligent, catalytic energy of the spirit, solar energy, if you will, that serves as both your ally and your amplifier. And this power of Zu responds to pure intent, clarity, and aligned action. It can be accessed through breath, affirmation, polarity shifting, and intentional projection of consciousness. Zu is the force that carries your inner recalibrations outward into material manifestation, cosmic resonance, and collective influence. Now, also another term is these tablets of destiny, the May tablets. If you're familiar with any Sumerian iconography or artwork, but you often see these figures, if they're not holding a lion, they're holding like a tablet with, some writings and stuff on it. But these writings, similar to the emerald tablets, are full of wisdom. They're full of this frequency of love. And you can see how having these words and these precepts as your guiding light will keep you within that frequency of love. And staying away from narcissism, selfishness, self-centeredness, this path is only going to worsen for those people that are out of the frequency of love. And the powers that be amplify this. They use this as a weapon. But this narcissism supports aggressive, domineering policies, political policies. But this frequency of the new age, of the golden age, dissolves the false self, egos, especially in men, forcing us to rebuild better mental health or fall victim to our inner demons. And this amplification of the ego narcissistic personality will continue to amplify narcissism as people cling to their outdated versions of self. This new age will see a new crop of spiritual warriors who will be introduced, but ultimately it's our job to lead ourselves spiritually and no longer outsource this to an external agency, priest, organized religions. That is all going to be the wide path of destruction for people as we move forward into this new age. These are avenues of distraction for people. Now, dear viewer, right now is the time to get strong. Do so through your breathing, paying attention to your breath, to your energetic quality, mentally, physically, and spiritually, to overcome the loss of these old structures as they completely crumble and build new structures. Create watertight boundaries. Stay focused on the future that you want to create. Okay? Regardless of what the collective voice says as the world around us crumbles. And this is most important, the future that you want to create. I hate personally losing my temper. Sometimes it happens. I'm much better with it, since 2021. But when you give your power away emotionally like that, you lessen the control over that future that you want to create. And the tablets of destiny, the more that you can stay in alignment with those tablets, you have the power of the gods to decree fate, to create your future. The more that you know yourself and trust yourself about your possible scale of reactions or how you act in any situation, the more mastery that you have over yourself, the more that you're going to be able to create your reality, your future. The more power of direct quantum reconfiguration, meaning that you direct your observation within your reality, and that will be the future that you have observed. And that will be the fate that you have decreed. And sure, the heavenly bodies, astrology, and all that comes into play somewhat with the time that you were born, with your karmic lessons and all that. But ultimately, you will grow out of that. You will transcend past that. That is one milestone or whatnot on the path of ascension, that you have mastered your animal tendencies, you have mastered your energies, and you have mastered your fate. Namaste. Namaskaram.